All right, attendees, if you're just joining us, just give us a couple seconds here and we'll get started, giving everyone a chance to log on. All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the webinar, Using Personas to Drive Predictable Revenue, the Art of Selling More Than a Membership, presented by ClubOS and ASF. Today's panelists are Aaron Moore, the Director of Operations at VIDA Fitness in DC, Jeff Wild, the SVP of ClubOS and ASF, and Bonnie Patrick-Mattalian, the President of Club and Spa Synergy Group. And yeah, they're going to talk to you all about how to develop personas to target your members with the right programming and opportunities to meet their new needs at just the right time. If you have any questions during their chat, please feel free to put those through in the Q&A section or the chat box, and we'll get to them at the end if we have time. All right, guys, you ready to take it away?
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you, Rachel. All right, as Rachel said, my name is Jeff Wild. I'm the head of revenue for ASF and ClubOS, and joined with two awesome guests today, Aaron and Bonnie. So thank you everyone for joining. To start, Aaron and Bonnie, I'll let you two introduce yourselves a little bit more, but then would also love for you to take that and share how you use personas today and what you're seeing as a result of that.
Okay, I'll jump on.
Yeah,
you got it. Thanks so much, Jeff. Pleasure to be here. Thanks everybody for taking a couple of minutes out of your busy day today. Again, my name is Bonnie Patrick-Mattalian. I work with a group called the Club and Spa Synergy Group, and I've been blessed to be in this industry quite some time. I've had the opportunity to build high-performing teams and businesses in both the for and not-for-profit sectors, and we're working with, as you can imagine, lots and lots of organizations right now as we're reopening. I call it, we're all startups right now, right? So once again, it's not just reopening, it's starting your business from scratch. And that's really where the personas come in, right? It's re-looking at your market. We'll talk about that. And then taking that information, identifying, who are our members right now? And you do that through data analytics, through your software, and through your engagement platforms, whatever that might look like. And then I like testing that against real members to make sure that it indeed is a fact. And we've really enjoyed great success in doing this, especially now because our businesses are all evolving. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, Bonnie, thanks. I love the startup mentality. I don't know if you ever heard the food truck analogy, but food trucks test and iterate so quickly. That's why they have a chalkboard menu, so they can erase and adjust in real time. And I think that's where we all are right now and why personas are so important. So love that analogy. All right, Aaron, over to you.
All right, thanks, Jeff. And Bonnie, good to be on the webinar circuit with you again. So Aaron Moore, Director of Operations at VIDA Fitness. Name of our parent company is Ermin Adventures. So we're actually 5 brands. VIDA is the largest brand. We also have a boutique fitness brand, salon brand, spa, as well as a restaurant division. So as a brand and a parent company, we're really set up for non-dues revenue. It makes up 46% thereabouts of our total revenue. And so it's all about using personas to drive people to various businesses. So all 5 of our brands are located within the same brick and mortar facility. So we use personas with membership onboarding. We have evolved our needs analysis to include personas, and then obviously with things like email list segmentation as well, to get people the right messages that they're interested in them and not bother them with things that don't really apply. So looking forward to the conversation today.
Awesome. And Aaron, I was going to start my first question with what inspired you to create personas, but hearing that 46% of your revenue comes from non-membership dues, I think I know the answer to that question. So could you talk us through what your approach was to look at, hey, here's our members, how can we get more from them? How can we develop personas, and how that evolved over time?
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of the backstory and take you to our insertion point, so to speak. So we were inspired by low tech, a limited marketing budget, and triathlons. So I'll dive into that. So back in my triathlon days, which I'm pretty far removed from at this point, there were two types of selection for the opening event, which is your swim. So some triathlons do it by age group, to where all 30-year-olds swim together, all 40-year-olds swim together, so on and so forth. And some triathlons self-seed. So you say, okay, it's going to take me approximately this amount of time to swim this distance. So I'm going to go in this group with similar swimmers. So I've done both, and I know many people that done both. And I can tell you that the common preference is to self-seed on the swim. And you can imagine if you have people faster than you and slower than you around you, it can be very chaotic with several hundred or several thousand people in the water at the same time. But if everybody's of the same ability level and speed, it's a much smoother approach. So we sort of use that as initial analogy to, okay, let our members self-select what they're interested in when they come into a membership. So we have a program that we've had in place for almost a decade now called our value-added program. So we don't have an enrollment fee, we don't have an initiation fee, but everybody pays or purchases a $150 value-added program. And you have 6 options. You can choose personal training, Pilates, nutrition. You can choose our boutique fitness concept. You can choose a gift card to the spa or a gift card to the salon. So before any membership is processed, we know at least one of your personas or your interest. And based on what you selected, we also know what else you're likely to be interested in. So now you can use lots of softwares, technologies, and even AI out there to do this for you. But for anybody on the call or the webinar that doesn't have the budget to go super high tech or any tech, this can be done very simply with training and spreadsheets and things like that. So that was our inspiration.
Love it. So you can start with one data point on day one of a membership, pretty much is what you're sharing here.
Yep.
That's great. Do you have any recollections of what your biggest surprise might have been? Like what group maybe signed up for Pilates that you didn't expect, or any insights there?
Yeah, so to answer that question directly, there was this perception, has been this perception in the industry that Pilates is for women, just like group fitness is for women. We were seeing 65% plus of Pilates packages purchasers as men who didn't move well, traditional weightlifters and things like that, aging population. And all of a sudden we're seeing these really fit, really muscular 40-something men that are diving into Pilates program because they want to lift better or heavier out on the fitness floor. So that was one way for us to get that. And to sort of go down that line with personas, recovery is a big thing for that population as well. So we have them in Pilates to lengthen their muscles, to develop core strength, proper breathing, which is huge. If somebody's trying to max out on bench or squat or whatever it might be. And then we would get them into the spa as well. We say, hey, good for you for getting yourself into a Pilates program, but you also need recovery and massage therapy to do that. And by the way, we know you're not going to foam roll and stretch on your own, because that's the exact same reason you signed up for Pilates, is because you need somebody to tell you what to do. So don't tell me you're going to foam roll, because you're not going to do it. Like, get this spa package and we'll do it for you. And like, people would just look at you and with that face of like, how do you know all this about me? It's just like, it's not about you. It's about the sample size that we've developed over a decade. And the tendencies give us a high percentage with very low variance.
So it's so funny you say that. I'm 38. I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist. I played college hockey. One of my good friends is 40. He's a professional personal physical therapist. He did professional cricket. And we just started talking about signing up to a Pilates studio because we're getting old and immobile. So you nailed it. Good persona development there. Bonnie, I'd love to go over to you. So you work with clubs to create personas, you consult with them. What's some of your process to get them stood up and going with personas? How do you work with them?
Yeah, so look, so much has changed right now. So I'll talk about the now, because that's obviously relevant to all of us, right? What was important to our consumers back in 2019 and their reasons, their whys for coming to us has really changed, hasn't it? So we go, 10,000 feet up and we look at the market, right? Not just the members. So we go further out. We look at the market first and say, okay, who lives in this community? So it's not just demographics, right? We all should be doing that anyway because they likely have changed. We were talking earlier, if you live in a large city, people may have moved out. They might be coming back at some point, but they may have moved out. So look at what's changed in your population since 2019. Also look at, and Erin was talking a little bit about this, there's psychographics, right? So it's more around their attitudes, their beliefs, their lifestyles, right? So learn more about your community and you can go out. I like doing drive times as opposed to mile circumference, right? So typically, depending upon where you are, it can be anywhere from 3 to 20 miles, right? And look at it in those different segments to see who's where first. And then overlay that information with information on your current members too. Now, we all might have many of people on hold or on freeze, and we did this recently, and it was just so fascinating to see the psychographics, right? The behaviors, those folks that were on hold and freeze, who they were, what their personas look like versus those that were first in. And here's what's really interesting. One of the centers that we work with said, oh my gosh, the seniors were the first ones back, right? They couldn't wait to get back. So as soon as it was safe, they were vaccinated, they were back in the door. Whereas so many others are saying, yeah, they're the most hesitant to come back. So that whole group we're staying in touch with, we're staying engaged with, but we're really focused on the folks that are coming through our door right now. And again, to Erin's point, we then, once we understand their behaviors, we can use some predictive modeling with the personas to say, if I enjoyed this, almost like when you go on Amazon, right? If people who bought this also bought that. And you can, yes, you can do it with software, but you can also do it, and we do it right now through many, like you said, Erin, Excel spreadsheets. And then I love getting the members involved in the conversation. And if I were to say, hey, Jeff, so, we're looking at really active exercisers, and you're a person that comes in frequently. I know that you like doing triathlons. Let me test a couple of our thoughts against the reality of what you think. So get a couple of focus groups, right, of members together to talk through those types of concepts. And it's really critical because keeping people engaged, as Erin said, we've got to be offering services that speak directly to them. Now, Jeff might not be someone who has insomnia issues, right? But people that are more prone to stress, sometimes families, all of us that have been working from home for, 400 days. So those are the types of folks that are going to be looking for those types of solutions around insomnia. And yeah, it's the typical massage and aromatherapy, but it could also be meditation, assisted stretching classes too, even selling products like a salt lamp, right? So that's how we pull it all together, come up with each of the individual personas, and then translate that into a strategy for each of those groups.
I love it. So calling out kind of this mixing of health and wellness that's happening in the market right now is really huge. And some of the changes we're seeing in the consumer mindset around recovery, pre and post workout, anything, right? There's a lot of retail and service opportunities that are emerging for facilities. So more revenue per square foot. It's a really exciting time, actually. as we're coming out of this COVID mindset into the startup mindset.
It is. And it's a really good excuse to partner with other businesses in the community, right? So
Mhm.
for example, one center that we work with, they don't have a cafe on the site, but they partner with the local restaurant. And I don't know about you all, but I know my family is pretty sick of the same 7 meals I've been putting together for, yes, those 400 days. So having cooking classes either in person or virtually, right? It's going to help that restaurant owner. Yes, it's got to be sanitized, social distancing, and you can also do that virtually too. So we're looking at our centers as more of lifestyle centers, right? We're rebuilding a community, and a community takes people of all different types. We understand their lifestyle, and then we translate that into better health and wellness for them.
Great. And I think the point on hold and freeze is really important. So looking at the wealth of information in our club management systems, how are you utilizing that data today? So to either of you, would love to hear just how do you look at what's inside that club management system and what decisions can you make, whether it's hold and freezes or something else?
Yeah, so for the club management system itself, it's really more about the supporting suite of products than the billing software. And so with our CMS, we'll look at check-in history and frequency, and we can gather some insights to create personas based off of that. But, it's sort of what is the supporting stack, tech stack or suite of products that it's feeding into. So like the CRM is huge, right? Because the CRM is, take Salesforce, which is sort of the non-industry universal example. And that's everything. Like for the B2B transactions that happen within our industry, it's primarily based on Salesforce. And that's where you keep all sorts of information about the individual buyer's business, their family, their personal interests, so on and so forth. And then continuing to leverage technology, what else does that feed into? So now those CRM notes can feed into an AI software that is going to prompt you that says, okay, based on what you've entered in the text analytics, offer this person X. Or maybe it doesn't prompt you and it's a full automation. So it's saying, okay, I'm using these text analytics here to send out an automated offer, over there. So, but it all starts with the CMS itself. So a lot of things get overlooked. So this is a good opportunity where unfortunately most of us are operating with reduced membership bases and fighting and scratching and clawing to get those people back. What is the quality of the baseline demographic data you have in the CMS? Do you have a phone number for everybody? Is that phone number accurate? Do you have an email address? Is that email address accurate? Looking as granular as, is it like no email at gmail.com, bad email address? Is your date of birth accurate, or did somebody just not get it and enter something into the system? So, bad data in is bad data out. So you can have the best tax stack in the world, and if you don't have almost zero bad data in your CMS, it's going to screw everything up. So I think now is a really good time to, and there's third-party companies that will do this service for you for a fee, or do it in-house with your IT department, is while you have a reduced membership roster, really scrub your data to make sure that it's pristine, because that will, whether you're going low tech or high tech, exporting to CSV or shooting it through 3 softwares, you need to have that good data as a starting point.
Yeah, no.
If I can jump on that, Jeff, just a couple of additional points. So, Aaron, you're spot on. The other piece around this is using this time where there are members that are on hold or who have canceled for individual conversations with our team. So still, most people are answering their phones, right? And it's having a conversation around their why, understanding where they are right now, and then taking that information around their behaviors, their lifestyles, their attributes, right? And entering that into the database too, because then think about it. When I put together a triathlon training program, right, to build some revenue, I know automatically, because I've checked the box for Jeff, that he's someone that I'm going to target specifically for this type of program. So Aaron, you're right. It's a perfect time to revamp and relook at what you've got in there and update that.
Absolutely. Great tips. And one thing I'll call out, so ClubOS is a CRM and marketing automation company, and we see a lot of this data coming in. One of the things we've started to notice through our analytics, which we share back to the clubs, is the type of lead and how they purchase can determine how you can re-engage them later. So if it was a web lead that bought online, it's probably best to get them through text or email, and you know they're opted in. But for someone like me who's a little bit hyper specific about what I want to see in a gym, I probably called in, I did a tour, I showed up for that tour, walked around, made sure the equipment was there that I need to use for myself, and then I bought my membership. So even having that single data point, how did someone get here to start with, can help with your re-engagement campaigns. But I also wanted to ask, we're all trying to pull people in, of course, but we do have a self-selected group that is showing up in the gym every day. And Bonnie, you started to call this out. Maybe the community is changing, or maybe because of that, your membership percentages are changing. So now seniors are more active. How do you look at what's within their activity in the club management system to define how you evolve from here?
Yeah, and that's one of the main reasons to do personas, and to take that information and then to upload it into your software. So who is engaged, right? And how do you know whether it's virtual, whether it's in person, right? There's a number of ways to do that. There's RFID card systems, there's the good old fashioned sign-in sheets, and you can certainly do it through your club management software too, for check-ins. It's a matter of then taking that information, matching it to what we know about those people. And for those that aren't engaged, right, right now, it doesn't take much for us to hear the sounds of footsteps out the door. So I like to say, I love Listen 360 and a number of other feedback sources that are out there. How frequently are you getting feedback from your members, and how are you doing it too? So if I had a less than positive experience today, right, it didn't match what my needs were, there's got to be a way to collect that data, right, to make sure that someone is responding in a timely manner, right? And chatbots are fine, but only if someone is actually responding pretty quickly to them, so that you don't hear the footsteps. And the other piece of this is, so many people are still going online and sharing negative, right, types of experiences. So we want to catch that, get our influencers in the center, and get them posting on social media all of the positive experiences too.
Awesome. And one of the things I'd really like that you brought up was the focus group of members. So this is an anecdotal example from a sample size of one myself, but I have found working at home is much more tiring and fatiguing than going into the office and having social interaction. So maybe I did want to hit class when I went to the office 4 or 5 days a week, and it was to energize to go home and have more energy for the rest of my day. Now I want to go to a assisted stretching class with a kids club that's open so I can drop off my 5-year-old and kind of chill out at my small group training. So are you seeing this type of evolution and change in how members are engaging the gym, or is this something that you're still evaluating from a persona perspective? And Aaron, I'll kind of kick that over to you since you're more in that facility type.
Yeah, so how are personas evolving, is the big question. And, before the pandemic, during the pandemic, after the pandemic. So the short answer is they're getting more complex and they're multifaceted. So we as operators, particularly fitness only operators, as opposed to more the country club type scene, we have to evolve and get more sophisticated. So don't think of yourself in the fitness space. Think of yourself as in the wellness space, because the days of the point of entry being a sole point of entry as gym membership are gone, never to return. We're not going to be successful doing that. Today's consumer is taking a more holistic approach to wellness. They're buying into preventative medicine for the first time by the masses. So the point of entry is not going to be treadmills and dumbbells. It's going to be like, hey, I have trouble sleeping. You know, how can exercise play a role in that? Because I hate exercise. I'm allergic to it. I don't want to do it, but I want to sleep well at night. My doctor told me I need to exercise to improve, my heart health. So there's a specific holistic need there. People are understanding nutrition better than they ever have before. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it's like, tell me what I have to eat so I can lose 10 pounds and keep it off. It was weight loss nutrition. But now nutrient timing is everything. I want to do X. What do I have to eat and why do I have to eat that? Hey, I've heard that I shouldn't have a heavy meal within 3 hours of bedtime. Why is that thing? How can we use that to educate people and say, no, you shouldn't have a heavy meal 3 hours before you go to bed. And also, you shouldn't have your screen in front of you on your phone while you're in bed trying to sleep. And let us share those data points with you. So we have to educate people on that and say, hey, don't just take my word for it, but here's a credible resource on why you got to put your phone down, on why you can't eat that meal. So one of the things to take this from theoretical, conceptual, and something tactical and a takeaway is we saw nutrition as an opportunity specific for us during the pandemic. So even after we reopened, people weren't coming to the club. A few people here and there. But what we knew was that people had a renewed interest or an elevated interest in nutrition because they were buying processed foods that would last a long time and working from home and eating from their pantry. So we partnered with George Washington Hospital Center, our registered dietitians, and Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we launched a webinar series called Evolve Wellness. And so it was a 12-week series that meets once per week that exposes a group of people to 12 unique nutrition concepts for an hour. And then for the second hour, we would do a virtual group fitness class together. And these were all people that were new to our database, not interested in joining a gym, had never been gym members before, didn't really exercise, but they don't feel good, they're not sleeping well, and they're gaining weight because of their nutrition. So first launch, I think we had 40 some people in the program and about a 70% conversion rate of people that joined the gym because of that point of entry, which never would have been an opportunity for us. So I have to cite my sources and give credit here. Scott Gillespie from Saco up in Maine was a huge educator for me. So I had the opportunity to get on a plane and go spend a day with Scott and really picking his brain on his nutrition program. Also want to give credit to Kevin McHugh from the Atlantic Club, who is doing some great things in the wellness space as well. And that's really the great opportunity we have as operators is don't think you have to reinvent the wheel by yourself. Just network and be known and do webinars like this. And you're going to meet people that have done this before that can give you some initial ideas. So in the spirit of that and idea sharing, if there's anybody on the call today who would ever like to talk shop and do a deeper dive, I love talking with people in the industry and I'd be happy to dive further. And Jeff, I know you have some cool tools too to save time and automate everything for people.
No, that's awesome. I love the shout outs and I love the offer. So really appreciate that. And there's some great questions coming in. I want to expand on some of your topics there, Aaron, and ask one more question of the panel, then we'll get to the Q&A from the group. But I'm a little bit of a wellness geek. My master's in exercise science and health promotion, and I've worked in the wellness space for the better part of 15 years. Gen Z is looking to purchase healthy snacks at the biggest clip ever out of any generation and is looking at healthy eating as a whole and doesn't really view fitness as their priority, but does view wellness as their priority. So what you're saying is right on the money. Love how you're approaching that new topic and discussion. But what's also really interesting, and I think this is a huge opportunity for the brick and mortar side of the fitness industry, digital fitness grew tremendously during COVID, but weight went up for the average American, right? So it's not really impacting things like we know nutrition can. And that's an area where we can start to mold the conversation, give more accountability and support. And we might rely on a brick and click model, which some of the tools that we have at ASF and Club OS allow you to do through a mobile app and training, but also analytics. So when is it appropriate to bring someone into the club and the type of service you give them, or keep them at home and the type of service you give them? So it's a really unique time. So the last question I have for the two of you before going to some of these great questions that are coming in: how do you measure success for persona development? And we're all on different ends of the spectrum. So what would you say is like the minimal amount of success you need to start evolving? Or when you're really mature, what are you looking at more granularly?
Yeah, so I can start us off here. I like to match. So we have in our mind, right, these different segmentations of personas, right? There's maybe 5, 6 of them. And matching that then against the real people that would be in each of those categories, but more importantly, looking at their behaviors, right? So if we're putting together this persona to say we're trying to predict behavior and to target specifically our programs and services, and to differentiate our center, right? So that people that we're targeting truly understand who we are and that we have something for them. That's what I do. I match against those folks. I look at the buying behaviors, the engagement, the participation. And you're right, it's coming into the center is not for everybody. Yet there are so many other ways that we can engage with people virtually, and we've all explored all of that. And yeah, participating in a group exercise class virtually is just not the same as it is in person. In person, your intensity level, I'll speak for myself, is not the same as it is when I'm in person, feeding off the energy. However, when I have a one-on-one session with a personal trainer virtually, then my butt is getting kicked, right? So I look at the personas, I look at the behaviors and outcomes that they are seeing, and that helps me check a box. Okay, were we right or we missed the mark, right? We put together a an outdoor exercise program recently, right? Like so many of us had. And we did not match it against personas. Instead, we just put it out there, you know, threw the spaghetti against the wall to see what would happen, because it wasn't targeted correctly, right? So we learned from our mistakes. We didn't get the participation that we wanted. When we did it again and said, okay, specifically, this is for this type of person. If you enjoy fill in the blank, here's what you're going to get. Here's the objectives. Then it was packed and we had to open another one. So that was a really good example of a learning for us.
Yeah, so I like the idea of the spectrum, like where do you start and how can you evolve? So at the starting point, it's what we call internally membership plus. So yeah, it's great. We got a member, we have a membership plus what? What else are they doing in the club or in the gym or in the studio other than membership? Because just membership is not good enough. You know, maybe if you're sort of a Planet model where, low staff, 24-hour access, low price point, maybe that works for a while and you're replacing enough of the churn. But for most of us in the industry, and certainly for the mid to higher price points, like what else are they doing? And it can't just be one option. People generally appreciate options, whether it's the type of membership or what else they can do. So it can't be like, oh, we're going to get everybody into personal training. It's like, no, maybe you'll get 10 to 30% into personal training, but what about the other 70 to 90%? And that's where sort of these multi-purpose operators are doing really well. PT, nutrition, Pilates, spa, a boutique element, even getting into physical therapy or mental health and things like that are huge. And then as it evolves to the high end of the spectrum, that's where you really need technology to come into play, because you can't when you want to know something, you can't always be clicking reports and data mining and things like that. So do you have the ability at the full end of the spectrum to get a profile of every member and say, okay, this is this person's check-in history without me doing anything else than looking up, their name or running a report? What is their purchase history? How many referrals and who are the referrals that they've given? What are their historical net promoter scores? What is their most recent net promoter score? And then most importantly, when does that behavior change? This is what Bonnie alluded to. When does that behavior change? When is there a glitch in the matrix that says, uh-oh, Jeff's just doing something different? And either Jeff gets prompted by a person, gets a phone call, or the technology or the AI reaches out to Jeff without anything else having to happen. It notices that change in behavior, that glitch in the matrix, and said, this is not a good change. This is a reduction in activity. I've got to catch that behavior as it's happening to get this person back on track. It's like training a puppy. You can't scold a puppy for peeing on your couch 8 hours after he did it when he got home. You've got to catch that in the moment. And really, a proper tech stack is the only way to do that. But, that's what you can evolve to over time. And I just want to add a little tidbit about technology costs. You get what you pay for. The technology is expensive, right? And it does take some implementation time. But we don't have an appetite for perceived high costs in the fitness industry. So we say, oh man, that's $2,500 per month, or that's $3,000 per month. And say, okay, that's $3,000 per month. That's $36,000 per year. And oftentimes we end up hiring somebody at a higher price tag than that to do a less consistent, less structured version of it. So my advice to people is don't think about it as a monthly cost, but think about it as a job that's being performed. And if you were to hire somebody, or if you were to create the budget for that activity, what would you pay for that versus the software? And what's more efficient? What's the better way to approach it? So there's low tech, there's high tech, and then you can kind of do a hybrid with some things as well. But just understand how you're evaluating the cost. It's not a subscription cost in my mind. It's a payroll cost.
Yeah, and I'll add a couple of things to that, Aaron. It's a good thing to call out. So at ASF and Club OS, we have the opportunity to speak to over 5,000 locations in the US and Canadian market. And that's everything from your small local studio to a high value, low price operator, franchisee groups. And we've really seen a desire for more access to information. And as a result, we're releasing a pretty cool analytics tool that has lived in Club OS, but is now coming over to ASF. So you can have more insight into your members, this purchasing history, this check-in history. What are they changing? What's changing across your whole demographic? So those are awesome call outs. I think something that people need to think about too when they're selecting a software partner is, are they really a strategic partner, or is it just a software solution? So I'd love to hear from you. What do you look for from a partnering perspective? We've rolled out a whole new account management and key account focus to not just be a software provider, but to actually be a strategic vendor that allows you to evaluate what other technology tools you can plug into our infrastructure. So if you could just riff on that for a minute, would love to hear a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing that we and I always look at really has nothing to do with the product itself. It has to do with the people behind the product. We pride ourselves as a service-first company, and that's what we look at with our partners, especially in the B2B space, is who is going to be handling the account? Who am I going to talk to when I have questions or don't understand something, or the software is not working properly? What is that person's response rate? What is their product knowledge? And what is their demeanor? And I like to get to know that person during the vetting process. It's painful to have like a really great relationship with the person developing the product and selling the product. And then here, meet Joe. He's going to be your account manager. Or even worse, like, hey, this thing's plug and play. You'll never have any issues. If you do have an issue, just email support or check out our YouTube videos. Like, you can have the best product in the world. If I'm getting that line, like I'm distancing myself right away. So that's the qualifying, sort of the pre-qualifications, as you will, is what is the company's service culture? Who am I going to be working with? How long have they been with the company? What do they like about the company? Who are some of the other accounts that they handle? Are they my dedicated account rep? So on and so forth. So, I mean, you can talk to any of the software providers we work with and you'd be like, hey, how often do you talk to Aaron Moore? And they'll be like, oh my God, all the time. On a percentage basis, this is not worth the account. But we do have some really good relationships, and our software partners bend over backwards for us. So from there, I see a lot of people say, oh, I want to take a look at this product. It looks really cool. Like, okay, every product looks cool. And most products have a capable team of presenting it. But going into it, what goal do you want to accomplish? Your goal can't be, I want to look at this cool software. It's like, what are you hoping that software will do? And then just transparently give that to the company you're talking to and say, hey, I want it to do this. So I'll give you an example with our Net Promoter Score software. And I think it's important for a lot of software vendors to understand that a lot of your clients won't utilize most of the benefits that you have. So we are very low tech with our NPS software. We simply use it to identify gaps. It's not a huge conversation interaction tool for us. It's okay. We didn't know about this particular issue, cleanliness in this spot of the club, in this particular location. And we've seen a few NPS reviews come in that we want to dive into at that. So it helps us identify those gaps. We don't position it as a conversation starter. And that has actually increased the number of reviews that we get because people know that we're going to see it and we're going to do something with it. It's not like, oh man, I want to send in this review, but I don't want 6 emails back from the person asking, what I could do better and things like that. So to sort of recap it, it's, what goal are you trying to accomplish? And is the company able to answer that goal? And are they taking that feedback and say, okay, Aaron, I understand your goals. Here's how we can accomplish that. And because you asked that, again, using personas, here's some other things and other tools that maybe you haven't thought of that customers like you are doing. Versus alternatively, if I say my goals are X, Y, and Z, and you say, hey, that's great, Aaron, let me show you this super cool features A, B, and C. I'm like, okay, that has nothing to do with what I asked you. So I'm going to assume that you can't accomplish X, Y, and Z because you immediately pivoted to something else.
Right. I think those are great points.
I'd just like to add, and right on there, Aaron, converting software from one to another, I've gone through it more times than I'd like to count. It's like a divorce. It's so difficult. It's so challenging. It feels like no one wins. So in doing that conversion, right, to the new software provider, I like to ask questions about, so tell me about how this is going to go and how are you going to work with me? And, who knows, maybe 5-10 years down the road, if we do this again, what would that look like? So I like asking questions around there. There are many operators that outsource, right, a lot of the tech pieces right now. So it's working together with those folks to make sure that there's a good understanding of what are the capabilities, what's open source, what other applications are you utilizing right now? And based on your personas, what else should we be thinking about, right? Mobile apps are certainly really popular. At this point, all of us are doing things, I don't know, when we finally get around to it at 8 o'clock at night. So it's being able to gain access to my account and to see all of the programs and services that are targeted to my persona, right? That is going to make sense moving forward for operators.
Right. And as our problems or opportunities evolve, our software should evolve, right? So the support and strategic discussions, the human side of it are really important. So great tips. So I'm going to go to some of the questions which revolve around software here. So one of them is there a particular AI software that you recommend or currently use and why?
Yeah, so from a big picture, we've looked at a lot of AI softwares out there and haven't pulled the trigger really on any because we don't see any as truly AI or not the total package, or maybe it's sort of just for group fitness or just a certain segment of the business. So I don't think our industry is truly there yet, but I obviously am not familiar with all the products and everything that they do. We have used the Conversica product for a couple years. So for those not familiar, it is essentially a virtual assistant that emails an uploaded group of email addresses. So we initially signed on with it to help us with member acquisition, with sort of old leads or cold leads or, dead leads, and see, can we get 3% of this, prospect list from, last year. And it was never really effective in doing that, and certainly didn't cover the cost. But where we pivoted and found it very effective is once we had these personas and saying like, hey, I've got a group of these 2,500 people that are likely to be interested in the hair salon, contact them and offer them 25% off their first service at the salon. So in communicating with our existing members that fit a persona, Conversica has been extremely effective. And the AI that we're leveraging is something that we would otherwise have a human do, or schedule out through a mail merge. Problem with mail merges is, email servers has wised up to it. It can wreck your email account, your email system, your email database. So you really do need a third-party partner to do that. And you can spread out those emails over time to avoid blacklisting and things like that. And part of the beauties of AI is our virtual sales assistant does exactly what we ask it to do when we asked it to do it. There's no game of telephone here. Like, what you see is what you get. And sometimes with a human, you don't always get that consistency, or they sort of tweak the verbiage a little bit and things like that. So we like AI for those reasons, but we haven't partnered with a ton of the companies out there. But Conversica has been good for us for the ways we use it.
And Jeff, I would say there's one that I've worked with directly. It's called Scipio.ai, new to the market, being piloted and out there at numerous facilities right now. What I really like about them is the dashboard, right? We don't want our teams sitting behind a computer all day, right? We want to be able to pull up the information, have it there, have it available, and know exactly what to do with it. What does it mean? I can see it, like Aaron said, right away, and then I can act on it immediately. So that's what I really like about Scipio. And then the only other piece is making sure that there is some sort of membership feedback sort of software, right? So that you can get your Net Promoter Score information, because that's critical to make sure that we're listening to the voice of the customer at all times.
Right. And I'll come back to Aaron's response and some of the challenges we probably see with AI. It's the continuity of data, right? So having data from the lead to the member to maybe they're an alumni now, all in one place to be able to use. So one of the things we use a lot on the Club OS side of the house is automation, marketing automation and communication automation, which isn't necessarily AI, but it is using the data to drive the types of communications to the right types of people at the right time. So it's a little bit of a half step between full-blown AI and then very manual emailing. But I think that's really where the industry needs to be, is leveraging a balance of manual steps and automated steps. So great question. The next question is, what are some of your ideas on short-term in-club programs that would support corporate wellness? So we've talked a lot about this merger of health and wellness. Corporate wellness is a natural progression right there.
Yeah, so let's keep in mind that not everybody is going back to the office, right? So the employers are still of the mindset, okay, I know my employees are stressed, they're off-site, sometimes they're on-site, just like, and then you got to worry about the kids on-site, off-site. So it is possible, right, to work with employers it doesn't matter what that scenario is. I like working with my fitness team directly, right? To talk about what are start with four or three, right? Types of conditions that maybe we can help to address for this employer. And then put that together. I don't know, it's stress management, it's insomnia, it's weight loss, it's healthy eating, or, getting a dietitian involved. Um, and then it's packaging that, communicating. Again, you've got to target those specific employers that you feel like this might make a difference for them. I like doing programs that are both virtual and that bring people into the brick and mortar center too. So anytime that you can offer both of them, I think that's a win-win. What we've seen is people that start in those sorts of programs, maybe it's an 8-week program, $99. I'm just making that up there. There should be a very high conversion rate. Typically we see anywhere from 50 to 70% converting to full memberships. If it's a certain program, right, just for an employer, make sure that you do have a step down program for full memberships, and they usually stay longer as well.
Yeah, so I like the team building play when it comes into corporate wellness, and I'll elaborate on that. So, Bonnie's exactly right. It's like some companies, everybody's 100% remote. Some companies, everybody's back, and some companies are that hybrid model based on role. So as a preface, yesterday, I partnered with our human resources department here at the club, and we led a training on conflict resolution. And the spirit of the training is like, hey, it was an adjustment to get ready for the pandemic. Like, we had to learn all about PPE and social distancing and temperature checks and what to do when your thermometer says somebody has a temperature of 82 degrees and, so on and so forth. And then we got really good at that and really good at operating on a short staff. And now we're getting back to normal, and we're entering more humans into the equation, working in the same size sandbox more frequently. And so we're not used to, regardless of the type of business you're in, we're not used to working the way we used to work together pre-pandemic. So in a remote/virtual space, collaboration is down. It was sort of like, the first 3 months of the pandemic, like Silicon Valley was like, this is great. We have so much, like everybody's getting so much done for home and there's no commute times. And then 3 months after that, it was like, man, collaboration's way down and we're missing deadlines and things of that nature. So what clubs can do with this in the team building play is say, okay, we've got a remote workforce. Let's identify a common bond, and maybe it's our employees aren't sleeping well, our employees aren't eating properly, our employees don't have an outlet for exercise. What is that need or that combination of needs, and offer that to that company's employees virtually together as a group, so they can start collaborating again to ease the transition back into the office, if that's the way you're going, or ease the transition into collaboration without an office. It works the same way if you're back. It's like, okay, everybody's coming back to the office together, and the first few days are exciting. What have I been up to? It's so good to see you. And now it's like, oh, somebody else is using the bathroom. I have to wait. I'm not used to this. What's going on right now? And so again, team building can play there. Like, have them come to the club. Simple stuff. Take a spin class together, a group exercise class together, or if you have a food and beverage element, do lunch and learns or seminars and things like that. Like all the good stuff that we used to love doing in and around the club before the pandemic. So think back to some of those opportunities that worked in your respective markets and see what you can activate right now.
That's awesome. I think corporate wellness is such a good opportunity to cement yourself as a community pillar, right? You're a resource to the community, to the employees, not just for going and lifting dumbbells, but for wellness and general topics. So,
Jeff, just
great.
really quick on that note, there is no one anywhere who does not want to build their immunity right now. So I just used a whole lot of double negatives there. So everyone wants to build health and immunity, right? So pulling together an immunity building program. And if it's not something that your team has an expertise in, you can outsource that, right? I would just, again, make sure that you have both in-person and virtual applications for that.
Awesome. So I told Rachel we were probably going to talk for 35 minutes, and we covered a ton of ground in just about an hour. So thank you both so much for participating in this. The information was tremendously valuable. Would love to hear just kind of your closing thought. What's a way to get started? What do you love about personas? Just a quick tip that people can take away with them, and then I'll give some insight into what they'll be getting from us after the webinar.
Sure, I'll kick us off. I mean, it's interesting. The word wellness kind of went away for a couple of years because no one understood what that meant. Now it means everything, doesn't it? Right? And maybe that's a tagline for us. So thinking of our communities, their lifestyles, their attributes, what's changed, as well as our members, I think this is such a huge opportunity for our industry, because we truly are poised to make a difference. So figure out who your personas are based on your demographics of your population, pull together the programs and services, and I think we're going to be in a great place really quickly.
Yeah, so for me, I would encourage everybody to ask themselves some basic questions, and keeping in mind we're rusty. You know, we're getting back to normal. We're not the well-oiled machine we were pre-pandemic. So one, again, how good is your data? You know, when's the last time you looked at your data and make sure you had good contact information? Most of the clubs that I've talked to called every one of their frozen members. And my guess is during that process, you found a lot of bad or updated phone numbers. So maybe partner with your IT team or a third-party company to do that. So the question is, you know, what is the quality of my current data? The second question I would ask yourself is, what are my core competencies? If you have any interest in doing anything with personas, you have to know your core competencies, and you have to have multiple options or multiple personas for your community and the type of folks that you're trying to attract. Once you've outlined your core competencies, ask yourself, what is the current awareness of my core competencies? Were my members aware of these before the pandemic? Are they aware during and after the pandemic? And ask your staff the same question. You know, what is their familiarity with all of your core competencies? You know, can you walk up to any staff member, regardless of position or location, and say, hey, tell me more about, you know, our approach to personal training? And you really have to have that 100% penetration rate of everybody understanding your core competencies and being able to give a 60-second elevator pitch, so to speak. And then once you have the answers to all those questions, conduct retraining with your entire team. You know, unless you've got this fully automated, like retrain your entire team. We do company culture orientations, and as we're bringing in more humans into the sandbox, we're retraining people on just the basic tenets of our company culture. So I think those refreshers are necessary and will help you identify the type of personas that you're capable of attracting. You can also partner with a digital marketing agency. There's very expensive Mad Men type agencies out there. And there are also very small outfits and solo practitioners that are very affordable rates to help you identify not only your personas, but what personas exist within your marketplace. I know there were some software questions. We haven't done this in a while, but Epsilon, who is now, I forget the name of the new company, but it was Epsilon and Epsilon, and I'm sure many people know what I'm talking about. They can do demographic studies for you that then convert what's in your trade area to personas. So I think that's an interesting place to start too, is what local marketing agency might you partner with to identify personas for your trade area? And then how does that fit into your core competencies, and then allocating your outreach efforts, your advertising spend accordingly. So not brief, but hopefully that was helpful.
No, that's great. So at Club OS and ASF, we've been watching the trends over the whole COVID pandemic, and we're seeing that brick and click is likely a model that's here to stay, right? It's neither brick nor click wholly. We need to have that merger. So through our analytics of check-in data, we're now coming out with our interactive mobile app that allows for full brand continuity, but also messaging continuity from the point of entry as a lead all the way through your small group training and personal training. I think to me, that's really the most important thing, right? We need to be able to communicate through a lot of different channels, your website, email, text, phone call. Your personal trainers better answer the same way your small group trainers do or your general manager does. That messaging consistency and access is really important because we will have different audiences in our facilities. We need to engage them differently and then understand who they are and what they're doing. So really great topic. We'll be sending out after the webinar a worksheet to help people develop personas if they don't have them already or if they want to take them to the next level. So thank you both. We have to do this again sometime because we talked for a full hour and we could probably talk for another hour more. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Jeff. Great moderator.
Thank you,
Great,
Rachel. And
Yeah, thanks, guys. Everyone have a good day.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.